Karen, you ready? Good morning and welcome to the August 1st Walton County Technical Review Committee. We've got 9 items on our agenda this morning. The first thing we're going to take care of is review and approval of minutes. See, we have minutes from June 6th. Do we have any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Yep. And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. And now we have the Wednesday, June 20th special meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or adjustments to those? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? These minutes are approved also. First item on our agenda this morning is we have a request to continue for the Emerald Transformer project until September 5 due to an advertising deficiency. We have a motion to continue.
Motion to continue. Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? That item will be continued to the September 5th Technical Review Committee meeting at 8:30 in this room. Next item on our agenda is the Inlet Beach wastewater treatment plant large-scale amendment. This is a request to approve by ordinance. It's been reviewed by Bob Barante. It's a large-scale amendment application. Bob, if you can briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This project is submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of the Inlet Beach Water System Incorporated, requesting approval to amend the future land use category from conservation residential 2 to 1 and neighborhood infill to public facilities on 15.64 plus or minus acres. The project is located on the north side of Lake Powell, adjacent to East Rattlesnake Trail, and is identified by parcel numbers. One was inadvertently left on the ad since it was a continuation, but staff report has it corrected. The parcel number that ends in 0050, the applicant lost the contract on that one, so that's why you see the difference in the acreage. So it's just the 2 remaining parcel numbers that have been published. The staff has reviewed this. The staff states that the proposed amendment does not provide for an orderly and logical development pattern in the neighborhood and does not meet the goals, objectives, and policies of the Walton County Future Comprehensive Plan. The proposed amendment of future land use map is to initiate the change because of the need of the Inlet Beach water system to develop a new 150,000 gallon wastewater treatment plant facility and associated infrastructure. As I said, staff does not concur with the analysis because of the compatibility issues with the Coast of Doom Lake, which obviously has been named Outstanding Florida Waters by the OFW in the area. Transportation basically says that it'll be further analyzed as it goes through the development order process, but it appears that there is generate tricks that can be generated there. There's comments about the loss of from engineering, the loss of preservation requirements by switching to public facilities. And also I would like to enter in record, you have 2 binders up there with all the public comments received. And at this time, if there's no questions, I'd like to turn it over to Scott Jenkins.
Thank you, Scott Jenkins from Jenkins Engineering. We have received the staff report from staff. I understand that this is a recommendation for denial for this request. Just wanted to make sure we understood the reasons why. I think we do, but just to reiterate, basically the concern regarding the proximity to coastal dune lake and environmental considerations, and 2 would be just basic concerns regarding compatibility in the area and the existing uses. Just wanted to make sure there was nothing else as far as technical information missing from the request. But other than that, I really don't have any questions regarding the staff report.
Thanks, Scott. As Bob mentioned, we do have 2 large notebooks with massive public opposition to this proposed change. In fairness, we did receive a few letters of support.
Small binder?
No, they weren't large enough to even put in a binder. I'm sorry.
It was 4.
But in fairness, there were 4 letters of support. Bob, do you have a final total of the number of opposition letters?
I tried numerous times to recount. I lost count about 675, but that was almost a week ago, so I'm sure it's well above that.
It's safe to say that this is not a very popular request. Staff report entered into record.
I'd like to enter staff report into the record and make the recommendation of denial and moving this project forward to the Planning Commission for their review.
Am I correct in noting that the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board has also recommended denial of this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I tried to keep as best as I could, try to keep the letters in order. You'll see in the first binder, the first couple of letters is from the Coastal Dune Lake, from the chair speaking for themselves and for the Coastal Dune Lake themselves. We've met with them a couple times, and they took action to vote that they are opposed to this proposed change also.
Thank you. Because this is a large-scale amendment which follows the major development review process, we'll have public hearings should the applicant want to move forward after a recommendation here to the Planning Commission, and subsequently, because these are recommending bodies, there'll be a public hearing at the Board of County Commissioners also should this application travel that far. At this time, we're going to take some public comment related to technical aspects of the application. This is not a public hearing, but we will accept public comment related to specific noncompliances with the comprehensive plan or the land development code. There'll be ample time to share the I just don't like it here at the Planning Commission should the applicant choose to move forward. But if you have technical comments related to compliance or noncompliance with any aspect of the comprehensive plan or the land development code, you're invited to come to the podium at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to make a technical comment? Yes, sir.
Chris Foreman, 58 East Route Snake Trail. The 2 comments I have that are technical is they still haven't shown me, and this is my backyard, how they're going to get in and out of the property. There's no legal easement. And the other one I'm still concerned about is my water. We're on wells. We have no access to city water.
Are you the closest resident to this proposed site?
Myself and Dave Arnold. Dave Arnold is what he calls the bowl of the toilet. He's right in the middle.
About how far away from the site are the two of y'all?
I'm 58, so just down here where the loop is in the lake. I've got 650
Can you show us on here?
Yeah. Right here.
And the other gentleman?
He's the bowl of the toilet, right there.
He is right here. And the other gentleman is right there.
That's about as close as it gets. Thank you, sir. Would there be anyone else that wish to make a comment? Yes, sir.
My name's Larry Grelot. I live on Medley Street, which is immediately north of the proposed development. And I would just, after listening to the discussion at the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board, I think that's the right way to say it, they mentioned infusion ponds as part of this proposal. Is an infusion pond like an infiltration pond where the material that's left over after you put the effluent into the lake, you get things settled? Is it open and that slowly drains down into permeable soil, or are these infusion ponds have a solid bottom?
Let the applicant respond to that.
Yeah, I'll respond. The designer for the potential plants here also, but I think what they're talking about are rapid infiltration basins, which are basically dry swell areas where it perks into the ground. So it would be pretty
Mr. Chair, during the Coastal Dune Lake meeting, the applicant switched back and forth in describing the process, and it was very confusing to the public and to the board which they were actually doing. So I think that's where some of the confusion came out.
He used the term injection well once, and we had to resuscitate a few people, so.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know, Lynn, do you want to address the technical aspects of it? I think it's just rapid infiltration.
Good morning, I'm Glenn Stevens. The method of land application of the clean water after it's been treated is called rapid infiltration basins, and basically what they are dry ponds, if you will, 3 feet deep, where the clean water is distributed over those ponds and then percolates down into the groundwater. Now, the solids themselves are something totally different. The solids that are generated will be hauled off-site, land applied.
When you say clean water, you mean the effluent that comes out that meets the guidelines? It's not potable water. It's
No, not
clean
potable water, treated water.
Okay, treated water.
Thanks,
Same water
sir.
you would use for irrigation.
Yeah, it's the same water. My concern would be when you do that in an area with this type of hydrology, these types of sands, that's going to clearly get on the water table and percolate sideways, assuming water runs downhill. And and it's going to be going in to Powell Lake, which is many times is restricted. So you worry about algae development. Is that a proper concern?
Yes, but there's many restrictions on the nitrogen levels and stuff. There's a lot of monitoring wells that would have to be applied to this once they go through the design phase.
They
So,
would use monitoring wells. but-
and they're required by DEP to provide those reports monthly.
Okay. Is the sewage system that goes into the wastewater, that would go into this should it ever come to pass, is it a combined system? In other words, is storm, rainout, water?
No, sir.
Combined, it is separate, it is a separate sewage system.
Stormwater is not allowed to be placed into sanitary sewers in Walton County.
Okay, that's a good thing. And I guess all of today's wastewater things treat what is called chloroform bacteria that goes all through, comes into the air through air stripping. How good is that process these days?
The design engineer can probably respond to that.
It just says that my reading says that it's most active at night and when the humidity is above 35%. How often is the humidity above 35%?
The treatment facility would be designed to remove most of the coliform bacteria that's present in the raw wastewater, and it would have to be high-level disinfection. We discussed this with Bill Evans, the permitting coordinator at VEP. And it will have to be high-level disinfection with, there are very strict limits of the amount of coal form that can be left in that treated water.
Do you use chlorine?
No, we use ultraviolet disinfection, ultraviolet light.
Yes, sir. Would there be anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Jaffe.
Brief, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rich Jaffe. I'm the president of the Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association. And I believe my final comments about this at this stage, at least, indeed are technical ones, because it's a concern about process here. Our board, and I think the majority of residents of Inlet Beach, are not necessarily opposed to a sewage treatment plant. This is an issue that we have got to deal with within the next few years. Everybody knows that. The technical part of our objection is to the location, which obviously has resounded with this entire community, and we appreciate your response to that. The other part of the technical issue is the rest of this process. We're going to have to go in front of the Planning Commission, probably. We will probably have to go in front of the county commissioners, understood in the respect to due diligence. What needs to be done from a technical perspective, though, is for everyone here to make their wishes known to the county commissioners in regards to holding regional utilities' feet to the fire to deal with this issue. This is an issue that is not going to go away. The sewage problem for Inlet Beach, the dealing with the sewage from Inlet Beach, is something that is going to continue for all of us. And if it is not dealt with in regards to a specific sewage treatment plant for Inlet Beach in the immediate future, it has to be dealt with by telling regional utilities to continue with their contract, uphold their end of the contract, and for multiple entities, yourselves included, no doubt, to deal with an end game solution. It's got to be done. And those are all technical issues. But at this point, expecting that you are going to deny this request, we appreciate your attention to it and certainly ask for your help and assistance in the future, because the technical aspect of dealing with the sewage in Inlet Beach is one that has to be addressed. And the only people that can address that will end up being the county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. You do make a very good point that we're going to continue to have growth, and we're going to need to be able to deal with wastewater. Anyone else wishing to make a comment?
Good morning, Emily Ellis, 58 Rattlesnake Trail, and I would just like for the two questions to be answered that Chris Foreman asked about the easement, what their plan is for ingress and egress, and what their plan would be for the residents' wells.
From an access standpoint, our understanding is that there are easements in place that run along the power line easement that's to the north and then south along the property boundary. We'll be happy to verify that through title search if we need to show that, but we do understand there's access available there. From the potable well standpoint of the existing wells that are there now, I don't know the answer to that. I do know that from talking with the manager of Friendly Beach Water and Sewer, if it becomes an issue with potable wells, that they will have to extend potable water down to the plant if it gets built at some point, and they would be willing to tie those people onto their new expansion of that main if it's an issue with wells being located near that. At this point, because we're just in with kind of the land use change portion of it, that's probably the best detail that I can give to answer those questions.
Thank you, Scott. Do you happen to know how far the Inlet Beach water system extends in that area? Where's the closest connection?
It's south, south of the location of where the ranch comes into Lake Powell there. I'm not sure
That's on the south side of the tributary portion of the lake?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Yes, ma'am.
Phyllis Golden, Jackknife Drive, Water Sound. So many of us live in our neighborhood, and had we known this would have been a problem, we would not have bought in that neighborhood. There is much land around us that doesn't have a neighborhood fronting the area. It seems like this development that y'all, and I know we need it, but there are other areas where it could be built.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Bill Shope. I live at 493 Medley Street in Inlet Beach. I've been involved in community developments for 40 years and have been participated in several sewer treatment plants. One of the keys that I've always found in our development is somebody showing that whoever ends up owning this plant is capable of running the plant financially, managerially, and has the staff and the trained people to preclude an accident. Because once the plant is built, that's the beginning of the problem, not the end of the problem. So I would ask this commission to consider who is running this plant, which at this point I understand is really the HOA, and I would suggest that they're not capable of taking on this task.
Anyone else wish to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Cliff Nauer, 110 Gulf Globe Drive. I know Scott and Mr. Glenn are great engineers and very good in their profession and what they do. My comment is about the technical aspects. The allowable discharge of nitrates from a wastewater treatment facility that DEP will allow is significantly higher than the natural nitrate levels that are in Lake Powell. And so even if they meet the minimum DEP requirements that are allowable discharge that is going to go directly into Lake Powell, it's significantly higher than the levels that the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board has in their testing that's been done on the lake. And so that's going to be a huge problem, even if they meet the minimum requirements. And actually, I'm properly directly across the street from Chris, or across the canal from Chris that was here a second ago at the end of North Wall Street, and plan on building my house there. So I would be directly across the street from him, or canal, sorry.
Thank you, Cliff. Anyone else wish to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name's John Schmidt. I live at 728 Breaker Street, Watersound Origins, marine ecologist, 30 years consultant. I talked to the Corps of Engineers in the Jacksonville District and DEP in Tallahassee, and what I don't really see are alternatives. When you apply for a permit under 404, you have to show the least practical damaging alternative when you impact wetlands or an outstanding Florida water like you would with Lake Powell. So, I mean, I know you're just looking at zoning right now, but when you prepare the application, you have to show alternatives that are least damaging to the solution. So,
Thanks, sir. I'm not sure they're quite at that point. Scott, would you like to comment?
Yeah, actually, really not to that point of detail yet, since we're just dealing with the land use portion of it, but they, obviously, if the plant were to get proposed there, they would have to meet all of the state requirements associated, and the Corps of Engineers requirements associated with wetlands and being located within outstanding requirements.
Well, part of our concern that Mr. Nauer mentioned was what DEP will allow greatly exceeds what exists naturally. The county commission has passed comprehensive plan policies and land development code regulations related to protecting the coastal dune lakes and specifically prohibiting any future individual wastewater treatment plants, your septic tank scenario, within the coastal dune lake protection zone. And we share similar concerns. Yes, sir, would you like to comment?
Again, I've talked to Bill Evans at DEP, and we understand that this treatment plant will have to have a very high process to use a very clean water. It is designed for nutrient removal, and he will be requiring, DEP will be requiring, tertiary treatment limits, which means the nitrogen, total nitrogen and effluent problem will have to be below 3 or even maybe lower than that. So Inlet Beach realizes that this plant will have to remove a lot of everything that comes in the raw wastewater in order to get it permitted.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wishing to make a comment before we close the public comment portion? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion. Bob, do we have a recommended motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Staff would like to make a recommendation of denial and moving the project to the appropriate planning commission meeting for other consideration.
Thank you, Bob. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? The motion carried. The recommendation is to deny this request. It will be up to the applicant to determine whether or not they wish to move forward to the Planning Commission. If they choose to, we'll schedule that for the next available Planning Commission.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If we can come back to order, we'll move to item number 3, the 30A Hokulia. Request approved by development order. It's been reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, can you briefly introduce it for us?
Yes, thank you. This item was continued from our last meeting, July 11th. Since then, they've redesigned the project. Previously, they were going to add on to the existing building. Now they're going to tear that building down and replace it with a new building. Previously, the parking was in the rear. Now it's going to be in the front. There were planning comments, engineering comments, and I've not received anything from the buyer yet, but nothing that's a deal breaker in terms of moving the project forward. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Curtis Smith, Novelist Civil Engineers. This project came before you before with, like you said, saving the existing home, parking in the rear under the assumption a landscape buffer was not required for commercial to commercial land uses. That has since been discussed in meetings. Planning director has interpreted the comprehensive plan that that's required, so we had to redesign. There's no other technical way that we could park that design. So the current design has a small parking lot in the front. The size of the development is very similar. It's slightly larger than before, but same parking requirements. I think all the comments are pretty easily addressable. The one thing I did want to get clarification on the buffer on the western side, I wrote in the comment response letter that the interpretation was in the comprehensive plan of the 10-foot buffer requirement. The comprehensive plan doesn't give any specific requirements on shrubs and tree plantings and such. The comprehensive plan does not. The land development code has that information in there, but it doesn't have anything for commercial to commercial. So one of our comments was to provide so many trees and shrubs and such. What we had planned on doing was saving a few of the existing trees as well as the really dense vine on the adjacent property line fence. So I wanted to just ask about that, whether that was the final intent by the recommending committee that we have to put additional trees and shrubs in that buffer.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
If you've got natural vegetation there that can qualify for the plantings frequency, we'll certainly give you credit for that.
Like I said, it's vine on fence, which is very difficult to.
You can keep it, but that doesn't meet any of the requirements of the planning schedule for landscape buffer.
The other, let's see here. The other one item was to request justification from the planning director on encroachment of stormwater outlets into the landscape buffers. We put this system underground exfiltration in lieu of the overground that we had before. We have 10-inch, I believe, small inlets that actually capture water and pop up within the landscape buffers. So specifically, do we just need to write you a letter that asks for permission to do this?
Yeah, for the up to 40% encroachment, we'll work with you on that.
The engineering comments was to show some vehicle tracking analysis in the parking lot, which I actually designed this parking lot with that analysis in mind. It was tight, I knew that from the beginning, just didn't put it on the plan, so I'll give that to you guys. I'd asked for a delivery truck. We actually inquired to the Hokulea headquarters about the deliveries to this particular facility. This is just a shaved ice and ice cream facility. There's not going to be a lot of big deliveries that come in here. It's more than likely going to be van deliveries. So we're requesting some clarification from them on that, on the type of vehicle, and I'll put that on the internal routing. Get that to you. So that's the only thing that we had that was actually heavily technical issues, and those are easily addressable. So we'd like to move this one forward.
Thank you, Curtis. The delivery van comments are pretty important given the congestion we're experiencing on 30A. And we're considering limiting the size of delivery vehicles on 30A as part of an effort to help reduce the congestion. So we're very concerned about what kind of vehicles would be delivering to this new commercial site.
We'll get that, and we'll get that submitted to you with the new auto turn analysis.
Thank you, sir. Looks like these comments can be reasonably addressed. Tim, do you have a recommended motion? Well, I guess we could. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to make a comment on this particular item? A technical comment. And actually, since this is a minor development, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to make any kind of comment at all? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Yes, recommend approving the project, pending resolution about all outstanding issues / comments and moving into the development stage.
Thank you, Tim. We have a recommended motion. Do we have a motion at the dais? Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed likewise?
Nay.
Motion carries. This item will move forward to development order subject to satisfaction of outstanding comments. This brings us to item number 4, the PCH office building, request to approve by development order. It's been reviewed by Bob Barante. This is a minor development also. Bob, could you briefly introduce it for us? Actually, we got a request to continue on this to September 5. Can we have a motion to continue to September 5?
Motion to continue?
We have a second? Motion and a second to continue to September 5 at 8:30 in this location. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? We're continued to September 5th.
Mac, I'd like to recuse myself from item number 5.
Okay. Item number 5, Redfish Point subdivision, request to approve by development order. It's been reviewed by Kelly Freimeyer. This is a minor development also. Kelly, if you could briefly introduce it for us.
This is a minor development order application submitted by Newberry Engineering on behalf of Mighty Boys LLC for 19 single-family residential lots on 12.87 acres. Subdivision is on the west side of Laird Drive, approximately 0.12 miles north of the intersection of Laird Drive and Highway 331. The engineering comments for this were not in the staff report. They've been supplied separately this morning. So you should have that in your packet. Most of the comments are just about delineating, making sure we have all of our buffers, both for the Mallet Bayou and for wetlands, really delineated so we can establish our setbacks on those two engineering comments. I think they're mostly reasonable. Questions?
Good morning, Cliff Nauer. So it's a little unusual. This is my project. I'm the owner and the engineer. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with this project is keep the site as wooded as possible. There's unbelievable oak trees on this site, all the way to the water. And so we had a number of meetings with Water Management District, and Water Management District has been to the site. Because it discharges directly to the bay, it's actually not required by your code to meet attenuation. It will meet all DEP requirements, and the first runoff requirements is required by your code. But we're really trying to preserve as many of the trees as we can. Some of the comments that came from engineering were related to the size of the vegetative natural buffer that we have. It's a issue that we've already worked out with Water Management District. They've been to the site, and we expect them to issue our permits very soon. The engineering comments really are pretty minimal. I think if we get the opportunity to sit down with engineering, Rita, and go through some of her comments, we'll be able to resolve them very easy. But this had a previous development order for 26 lots. It was an approved development order through the county for 26 lots, and we've cut it back, 7 lots to make it a minor development order with 19. The lots are very large. They're 100 foot on the water, 275 foot deep average, and so we're trying to preserve the oaks that are back there as much as possible. And so I think we'll be able to work it out with Rita and engineering without a problem. But be happy to answer any kind of questions that you guys might have.
Thank you. Any questions from the dais this morning? Thank you, Cliff. Since this is a minor development, we'll open a public hearing to invite any comments from any member of the public in attendance. Would there be anyone wishing to make a comment on this project? It appears not, so we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a recommended motion?
Yes, we're recommending motion to approve temporary submittal and satisfaction of the comments.
Thank you. We have a recommended motion. We have a motion at the dais.
Motion?
Had a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. This item will move to development order subject to satisfaction of outstanding comments. Thank you. That brings us to item number 6, the Verizon Wireless Tower at Pretty Pond. This has been reviewed by Renee Bradley. And I'll ask Renee to briefly introduce it.
Good morning. This is a request to approve by final order. This is the major development order application submitted by Sam Corporate Bob Coker on behalf of Verizon Wireless, agreeing with Shirley Jones, requesting approval to develop a 160-foot monopole cell tower on a .15 leased area of 252-acre parcel. The land use of this property is rural village. Staff has very minor comments on this project. We did also send this to Eglin for review. We're still pending a final response from Eglin. They asked for additional information, which has been sent to them, which is not completely on the staff report yet until we get a final response from them. There was a little bit of question about one of the responses to Eglin about the 160-foot, things like they were saying, and it appears to me on the plans that this tower is more 165 foot than it is 160. So we need some minor corrections on that. We did have some questions from the fire department for the applicant to respond to, but I don't see anything that should hold this project up and moving forward to the planning commission once all the comments have been addressed. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Very important that we get clearance from Eglin, as we're trying to work very closely with them right now, as we have a number of special areas related to military missions. And they're usually interested in a 160-foot obstruction in the air. Do we have a recommended motion?
I would recommend, based on Core Staples' approval, that we move this forward to the planning commission once all comments have been resolved.
Thank you. Do we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Well, before we vote, let's take a technical comment from the audience. Anybody in the audience wishing to make a technical comment about this particular application? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Motion carries. This will move forward subject to satisfaction of outstanding conditions and be scheduled for planning commission. Thank you. The next item is number 7, Jazzy Ray's Furniture Warehouse. This is also reviewed by Renee. It's a minor development. Renee, if you could briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. This is a minor development order application submitted by Curtis Smith on behalf of Michael and Jasmine Dukes, requesting to develop a 4,980 square foot warehouse and improve private right-of-way on approximately 12.14 plus or minus acres. Would like to note that basically half of this is what's really being developed, but because of the right-of-way being on the lower part of this, which is in industrial, so we're really looking at more like developing 7 acres here. Also, the project is located north of US Highway 90, just west of State Road 285, and the current future land use is industrial. There was a couple of errors on the staff report I'd like to point out. It says just west of State Road 285. That's the current. I changed the staff report, but I believe yours says east, so we need to correct that. Additionally, I think on the staff report that you guys got, I had left on the previous actions from a previous report on there, so that needs corrected. It has been corrected in our staff report we sent to the applicant. Planning comments are very minor. The biggest concern is the sidewalk on 90, on whether that is a buyout option or a request from the director and engineers that whether that's required or not. And that's all I have for you.
I'm Kurt Smith, I'm the civil engineers. The sidewalk was actually one that I looked up last night. There is exemption allowable within the Land Development Code for rural areas that pedestrian traffic is not prevalent, and there's no planned sidewalks within the next 15 years, which I think this would probably fall under.
I think it does.
So we'll send you, or get you a formal letter of request for exemption on this. That's
Yes.
sufficient.
We'll accept that.
The other only comment we wanted to bring up was that Public Works has requested that this roadway be paved. I probably misrepresented this a little bit. This is actually an ingress egress easement. It's not a platted right of way. It's also, currently it's utilized by the cell tower on the west side. So there's actually no subdivision development or anything in there for this. So the applicant would like to continue this as a gravel drive. Actually, they're improving it to gravel rather than the dirt road that it currently is, or dirt driveway really. And since this isn't an actual roadway, they would like to get Public Works' input on whether, since it's not a public roadway utilized by a subdivision or any kind of formal development, if it can continue to be a gravel drive.
What's the proposed use?
The use of the facility now is for storage. It's furniture, warehouse storage. That's what all it is.
But I mean, it's business storage. Is it going to be rented to the public, or is it a single tenant?
No, the owners, Michael Dukes is here. They're the owners. They're the owners of the furniture store and the house behind this. It's just their use to store furniture. There's no public use on it, no, sir.
Will the public be invited to this building at any time?
That is the only question we had. That's the only one we've got to address on this submittal. Other than fire hydrant, which we're adding a fire hydrant at the request of the Norfolk Fire District.
Thank you, Curtis. Since this is a minor development, we're going to open a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to make a comment about this proposed development? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a recommended motion?
I recommend that we move this project forward to the development board today upon all comments.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. And a motion at the dais. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed likewise? This motion carries, subject to getting the exemption letter and resolving the outstanding comments. We'll move to development order. Thank you. This moves to item number 8, the Topsail West Phase 2 Amendment, request to approve by final order. This is a major development. It's been reviewed by Tim Brown. Tim, if you could briefly introduce it for us.
Yes, thank you. After the staff report was complete and sent out to the applicant, it came to my attention that they're also amending phase 3. It doesn't affect my comments, but they're also going to, well, let me back up. The change to phase 2 is to change it from senior living to assisted living and changing the parking standard from senior to assisted. In phase 3, they're changing the gas station convenience store to a restaurant, and they're changing the retail fronting Highway 98 to a restaurant. And those are the only changes, and like I say, it did not or will not affect my comments, but we do have to update the staff report and update the ad for it. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Good morning, Robert
Good
Carroll,
morning.
Neil Carroll Engineering, 17800 Panel City Beach Parkway. We are the agent. We are requesting to
senior assisted living, just like Tim said, actually reducing the density from 190 units to 130 units. The changes of the convenience store and the restaurant buildings in phase 3 to restaurant and restaurant/retail. Current approved building area is 10,925. Will still be at 10,925. So building areas do not change. It's just a reduction in that density of the assisted living. And I hope that answers any other questions. And all of these, once these are changes, then all of them will be subject to individual development orders anyway. But this is just a PUD itself.
So all we're doing here today is just amending the PUD?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the dais for the applicant?
Will the parking for the retail and the gas station be sufficient for the restaurant for the changes being made?
Yes, sir. They'll comply with parking. We're not asking for any deviations in parking whatsoever. It's just a convenience store. There's already one across the street,
Right.
so therefore they didn't see the need for that. And while we're making an amendment to the PUD, we might as well make the changes that they see fit. They're just updating it, and they'll comply with all the parking standards.
Of the PUD.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Since this is a minor development, we'll take the opportunity to invite any public comment from Dean Burgess, the only member of our audience today. Unless someone walks through the door. Mr. Burgess, do you have any public comments?
I certainly don't.
Thank you, sir. We'll close the public comment portion of this application. Do we have a recommended motion?
Actually, Mac, since this is a PUD amendment, it's a major, not minor. That's, PUD
Yeah,
PUD amendment has to be approved by the county commission.
that's correct. Those were technical comments I was asking for from our esteemed engineer in the audience. Recommend a motion?
Yeah, sorry. Recommend approving the project pending resolution of outstanding comments and move it forward to the planning commission.
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. We have a motion at the dais. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? This motion carried, and we'll move forward to the Planning Commission. Thanks, sir. That brings us to item number 9. I'm going to ask Bob to introduce this one, because he probably knows how to pronounce it, and I don't.
Well, I guess the name has gone through a change, but the official application was to change it to Capellange, and so it's currently shown as Capellange on 30A, but I believe the agent staff has told me now it's just Capellange with no extra capital L. A request to approve by final order, project number is MAJ 18000022. It's being reviewed by myself. This is a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Ken Minshew, requesting approval of 6 multifamily units and 6 single-family lots on 3.42 plus or minus acres with future land use of neighborhood infill. The project is located on the south of 38 and is identified by parcel number posted in your staff report. There are some just minor comments, some outstanding comments that I will get to the applicant as soon as I get them. And if no further questions, I'll just turn it over to the applicant for his introduction.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Steve Burgess, Emerald Coast Associates. I have not seen comments on anything, but read through them real quick.
If you could speak up or come to the podium. I've lost mine there, so we can make sure we get the audio on the record.
I have not seen the comments, so I just want to take a minute to go through them and determine if I had any questions. In the planning comments, says a landscape architect must sign and seal the landscape plan. It's only required on scenic 98 corridor, right?
Correct.
That was the only question I had. Just needed to check the code to clarify preservation buyout within coastal dune lake protection zones. Is there a buyout opportunity?
We'll have to review that.
All right. I'll need to do the same. That was my only, if there's some further discussion on that, I may need to set up an appointment with the plan reviewer.
I just made that comment because I thought you said in your application proposing
Right. Okay. No other questions on my part?
Dean, I know this is several, several parcels, right? So I didn't make the comment about the multiple accesses, within the development. However, there's an outfall structure on that easternmost driveway connection.
Correct.
It's an existing outfall to the lake for the 30A right away. Have you been in discussion with Public Works at all regarding that? Because I sent it to them, and I don't see that they've made any comments on that.
Okay. I have not personally made any comment, and I did want to, I appreciate you bringing that up. I just wanted to ask what in particular you wanted us to discuss with Public Works, and primarily that outfall.
Primarily.
What we were looking to do is, right now that basically routes water underneath 30A and to its historical outfall location. We were going to take that and connect into that and bring it further down our property, just so we don't have it running across the property as it does currently.
Right, and I'm not sure what, if there were any changes due to that bike path realignment or the new multi-use path that they just constructed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there was any change in that drainage pattern. So I just wanted to recommend that you probably reach out to them just to see how they look at that.
Yeah, and now that the bike path is in, at the time we did the survey, it was under construction. It would be prudent for us to go out there and survey that area again, so we can match the existing contours and outfall location, et cetera.
Right. I just didn't know if you, I guess you sized your pipe or assumed the pipe size based on the existing cross drain.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
They may
drainage
require
base-
that we double check and confirm that and determine what the drainage area is going to it, and prove through calculations that the pipe size is sufficient. We'd be happy to do that. I'll talk with either Chance or Charlie, to.
I reached out to Charlie on it, so he has the plans.
Charlie does?
Charlie
Okay.
does, so.
Be happy to.
Mr. Chair, yesterday, late afternoon, I got Public Works comments. I didn't have a chance to forward them to you. I'll give them to you because I'm still waiting for a couple others. I believe their comment was to meet with you about the right of way, but there is one Public Works comment for you.
Okay.
That I'll forward to you as soon as I get. I'm still waiting for a few other reviewers to give comments.
All right. What other reviewers are we waiting on? 'Cause I'd like to respond to these as quickly as
Dean, I'm probably the only one struggling with the new system,
All right.
so that's not surprising. But just to expedite this, maybe you can bring me a set of plans and I'll review them as quick as possible.
Be happy to.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
And I'm just waiting for state control also.
That's all I've got.
Any other questions from the dais? We don't have an environmental assessment yet on this parcel, or this.
We got an environmental assessment. Yeah, evidently, what they sent us was, not their full report. And, it was just a couple of the photos from the report. So we've got the report and we apologize for that.
Okay. We had a chance to review that portion yet?
It hasn't been, as last I saw, it hasn't been uploaded to do that, but I'm sure it'll be reviewed as part of the resubmittal. As Dean said, I believe there was some pictures in the little verbiage that was initially submitted.
What do we want to do on this one?
Stop and make a recommendation to conditionally approve the pending successful resubmittal and addressing all of the comments, and then scheduling it for the appropriate, planning commission meeting.
Are we proposing to buy out any of preservation?
I believe we are.
Do we have an idea as to how much there is and how much we're wanting to buy out?
I may have, I have to check on that. I don't think we were looking to buy out 50% of the.
We got a recommended motion, we have a motion at the dais.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? This item will move forward subject to satisfaction of comments to the Planning Commission. And that concludes our agenda this morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate the members of the audience sticking around for the final show.
Thank you, Matt.
Members of the board, it's my final show as well.
That's right.
I will be leaving Warren County.
What?
Lake City.
Let me turn this off.
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah, we will, man. I wish you the best of luck.
Where you going, man?
Lake City. Lake City.